Oftentimes, we equate self-worth to net worth, meaning that if I have this income, then that means I have wealth. And income and wealth are two very different things. I can make this amount of money, but wealth is an accumulation of assets over time.
Welcome to Everyone's Talking Money, where we get brutally honest about money, mindset, and making life richer. Ashley, what's one habit someone might think is being responsible with money that might actually be a symptom of money dysmorphia?
Great question. So one habit is over saving. So one of the things that we might see at Schools First is a member with $25,000 to $30,000 sitting in a basic savings account, not earning any interest much, just sitting there. And the member might be struggling in their day-to-day life because they're putting 80 or 90% of their money into the savings account because they believe they need to save for a rainy day, not realizing that they are creating rainy days by over saving.
There definitely is a risk to having too much money sitting in a savings account, or I call it money hoarding, where you keep on putting money away, and I just need to get to X amount of dollars and then I'll feel happy, I'll feel comfortable, I'll start investing, I'll buy a house, whatever, name whatever it is. And then they get there, and it's like, oh, well, I really needed $10,000 more or $5,000 more or whatever it is. Then I'll be able to do all the things. And they just keep on moving the goalpost. And they may think, and others may think like, wow, that person is so responsible with money. They really know what they're doing. They're saving. But it's actually kind of the opposite. They're hurting themselves. One, because they keep on putting these goals in place that they're never going to achieve. They are achieving them, but it's never going to be good enough. But then their money's not working for them. So their money's sitting in the savings account. It's earning less than inflation. It's not working for them appropriately. So this good habit, and you never think like, well, saving too much money is bad. Like, no, it's not bad, but it could be better. But you're hurting yourself because your money's not working hard for you. We established last episode with Melissa that everyone has this money dysmorphia. Like, we all have it. It's just, how much of it do we have? And how does it show up? Whether we don't think we have enough, whether we think we have more money than we actually do, we're not considering money. We all have this tricky relationship with money that is now being known as money dysmorphia. So over saving, what about chronic budgeting? Like, what do we think about someone that is so into where their dollars are going?
Yeah, that is a similar situation. I think, when you think about this in terms of financial education in general and kind of that lack of financial literacy that you see on a day-to-day basis, not having an understanding of what real true budgeting is, you find yourself again with those, envelopes in the freezer, putting those dollars in there, and you turn into the same scenario of every nook and cranny is budgeted and there is no room for the unexpected. So there is a such thing as there being error in over planning and under planning, because both of those don't leave any room for the unexpected. And so if you don't leave room for the unexpected and things pop up, what do you do in those particular scenarios? I didn't budget for the flat tire. Even though I budgeted for savings for a rainy day, my mind doesn't think that that's what I budgeted that savings for. It's thinking I budgeted this savings for, as you described, this goalpost that I have in the future that I'm waiting to get to. And so ultimately, I find myself in this vicious cycle of trying to achieve the unachievable because I'm creating it, even in what it should be a good thing of budgeting.
Right. Like all of this stuff should be is a good thing. Saving
Yes.
is a good thing. Budgeting, I don't like the word budget, but knowing where your money is going and creating guardrails, like that's a good thing. But if you think of money dysmorphia the same way we think of body dysmorphia, it becomes an extreme.
Sure.
And exercising is a good thing, right? But when we take it to extremes, that's where it becomes dangerous. And when you said put your envelopes in the freezer, it just brought me back to like 20 years prior, where it was like advice, financial advice was take your credit card, put it in a bowl and put it in the freezer so you don't use it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't thought of that until you just said that just now, and it like just brought me back. But
Mm-hmm.
that was advice, which is
Yes.
crazy.
Yes. You know, it's about comparing yourself, right? When you have this dysmorphia, you're thinking about comparing myself to the external appearances of others. And if I don't look like this particular person, then I must not be financially healthy. And that can be nothing but the truth. You can be absolutely financially well, but because I'm looking at all the things that I see, I may not believe that I have the right pieces in place, the right guardrails in place, if you will, in order to ensure that I can look like the people that I see on social media, for example, or my colleague that I work with. And so the dysmorphia only increases and compounds because I am comparing to something that isn't comparable to my own life and what I actually have available to me.
So does it come from comparison of others or internal feelings that we have or a combination of both?
Mhm. I think that it is a combination of both. I think that we're highly influenced society now. I'm not a huge social media follower personally, but social media, especially with Gen Z and our millennials, plays a significant role in their perception of what reality is. And reality is not, in many cases, what they see on social media. However, it is how they place the standard, or their true north becomes based on that reality. And then they start to create the circumstances with which they are in around the things that they are believed to be reality in these social media platforms, again, that aren't really true. And so when you're thinking about saving and or budgeting and or spending, which are the hallmarks of financial literacy, investing is often left out in that equation. But if you think about those three pillars there, they're based on circumstances and or people that have very different realities from what you have. They are influencers. They don't go to a 9 to 5 job every single day. They don't have the same type of bills at the end of the month. And so it's very difficult for you to make those correlations or those comparisons, but you find yourself doing that, thinking that I am either way set in my life because I'm able to spend just like they're spending, but I'm using a credit card to do that spending, or I'm using Klarna to do that spending. They're using cash on hand, or they're getting that for free because they're an influencer. And or I'm thinking I am not financially well because I can't spend that way. I'm not able to buy those things, but I'm actually doing much better than they are because they're getting that stuff for free and I could go buy it if I wanted to. And then the plot, it just gets wider.
How much does income when someone has money dysmorphia, when we're looking at income, how much does one's income affect one's wealth? So, oh, they make a lot of money, or they're two positions higher than me at work. They must be loaded. They're killing it right now. And I stink because I'm two positions lower than them and I make less money than them. How often does that come up where we think, well, their income is a certain number, or we assume it's a certain number, so they must be doing so much better than me?
Yeah, I think that's such a great question because I think oftentimes we equate self worth to net worth, meaning that if I have this income, then that means I have wealth. And income and wealth are two very different things. I can make this amount of money, but wealth is an accumulation of assets over time versus income that can change depending upon what my circumstances are. Success is also sometimes falsely equated to my ability to spend, so my spending power. And so if I can't spend, therefore I'm not successful. If I don't have the right income, then I'm not wealthy. Therefore, I don't have worth and so, or self-worth, I should say. And so we sometimes see this in the credit union. I'm sure not just my credit union, but credit unions across the spectrum, where at the end of the month you have, more bills than you have paycheck. And what does that then do to your thought process about your self-worth and your financial well-being? And sometimes we actually ask our members at Schools First, how do you feel about your financial well-being? And some of the members that don't feel financially well, if you look at their financial outlook, nothing about what I would see there says to me that they are not financially well. But perhaps there are things that at the end of the month they weren't able to spend or buy or purchase that then translate to them that they don't have the self-worth that they think they should have at this stage in their life because of external factors that are playing on them. And I think that that feeling is at an all-time high now.
Well, because we're in a society right now that's immediate. I mean, things are immediate.
Mhm.
There is no delayed gratification.
Yes.
We can order something. I can order something on my phone, and I'm annoyed if it's not here the next day.
Yes.
Right?
Or
I
by
mean,
3 p.m.
by 3 p.m. Exactly. So
Mhm.
everything is so immediate. And then you mentioned the Klarna, buy now, pay later, which is
Yes.
our modern day layaway. In
Yes.
the 80s, when you had layaway, the item didn't go home with you, or it wasn't
No.
sent to your home. You had to go to this, to stay at the store, and you had to go and make your payments. And then it was the delayed
Mhm.
gratification. Now it's the exact opposite. We
Mhm.
get what we want, and then we pay for it later. So by the end of the month, we want to get something, buy something, whatever it is, do something, go on vacation, you name it. If we're not able to do it, if the math tells us we can't do it, we are not happy campers. And
Mhm.
then that in turn means we're less than because we can't do it. So
Correct.
it's all been tied together because we are just used to everything so immediate, and we don't have to wait for many things anymore. Where finance, money, you have to let things cook. You have to let it marinate. You have to implement something and then give it time. If you
Mhm.
get a raise, right? Don't go out and, I mean, you do have to get yourself a treat. Like, you do have to do some type of reward. You did something good, get yourself, don't spend all of your raise or don't spend all of your bonus on this, but I believe in a little bit of a little treat. But you need time to feel the impact of that increase in income.
Yes.
Or if you lose your job, ideally you have an emergency fund. We've saved for this. So you're going to feel it. It's not as if your money poof is gone right away if you were to be laid off, lose your job. So with anything, you receive an inheritance, let things cook. You retire, let things cook and marinate, because your finances take a little bit of time to catch up to life.
Absolutely. I love that. And if I can just quickly add, you
Yeah.
said something when you talked about layaway in the 80s. And I remember that probably not as fondly. When I was growing up, that was not a great sign. If your clothes were in layaway, you weren't the cool kid, because your things had to sit and bake, to your point, before you could bring them home. And so it's fascinating how the cycle has changed so much over the years, where now that's like the thing to do, is to, buy now, pay later. Whereas it really was kind of frowned upon when I was growing up, that you could not get your things immediately and right away. And so retailers, these organizations found a way to take that same model, modernize it so that people can take it and pay over time.
What's interesting is there's a shame attached to the layaway,
Yes.
right? You're essentially saying without saying, I can't afford this right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually doing the right thing. You're
Yes.
being so responsible because you're saying, I want this, I need this, I'm going to get this, but I can't get it right now. So I'm going to pay a little bit over time.
Mm-hmm.
I was not old enough to put things on layaway in the 80s. I don't think there was interest charged on it.
No.
Right?
No.
So there's no interest charged on it. It was just you had to wait and you had to walk into the store and pay for it, which of course you like that made sense, right? Because there was no electronic payment or whatever at that time. Where today you put things on the credit card, you're the only one that knows.
Correct.
There's no societal shame on that. It's only you. So you only have to answer to yourself.
That can add to money dysmorphia, because that is only going to later cause me to feel even more inadequate, because now I have about 3 Klarnas, 5, ships of the other brands, and this, you end up accumulating so many of those that you find yourself in a vicious cycle, almost similar to payday loans. And are you able to even afford all of these $25 payments over the next 12 months because you have 10 of them? And it doesn't become worth it in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. And you no longer have to, in the days of layaway where you have to show up to the store and pay it, or say, I want to put this on layaway, and have that experience, maybe feel it might not feel awesome, but in the end, bravo, because you were doing the right thing. Like, it's just so funny. And now we can do the Klarna, we can do the buy now, pay later, we can do all those things, and it's just a couple of clicks, and we're the only ones that know about it.
Yes.
So there's no outward judgment or any, and the outward world doesn't even know any of this stuff. We're the only ones that know it. And so I wonder if we think about like what's more shameful or embarrassing or makes us feel less than. I wonder what that is. I don't know. I'm just curious. I wonder if the money dysmorphia would exist as much for someone that did the layaway as someone that has all the Klarnas and the buy now, pay later in our modern day layaway.
Right. Fascinating question. I was a child, and, so it was my mother doing the layaway. So I'm not sure. It was more, as a kid, feeling the embarrassment of, oh my gosh, my mom has to go here and pay this layaway, because if you couldn't get the tennis shoes today, and then by the time you got them, the kids are on a whole nother shoe, that whole embarrassment, as a child, and it being amplified 10 times greater, I would be curious to find out how my mother felt about it, whereas she was being very responsible And if I could gather a guess, I would think that she felt perfectly fine because she knew she didn't have it. And if you want it, this is the way that we're going to get it. Because what we're not going to do is create an unnecessary expense just so that you can have this pair of shoes.
Right. You think about the evolution of store cards. The stores come up with their credit cards. Well, the stores don't make any money on layaway, right? Because they
Mm-hmm.
take the product off
Mm-hmm.
of their shelves, they set it aside, and you pay bit by bit. And then finally, when you pay for it in full, now all the money's on their books. Then you can walk out the item versus a credit card where the item goes off the shelves, they get the payment for it, and then they get interest on it.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, well, no duh, why credit cards, store cards, all of that became a thing because
Mm-hmm.
it's way more profitable for the store to offer a credit card than it is to offer layaway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you find money dysmorphia shows up more or presents itself more in someone that makes good money but can't do maybe the things they want to do, or they're not spending in the way they want to spend it, versus someone that maybe makes less money and there's a whole identity issue with that?
I have to say, I see it showing up in both places. I think for those individuals that make um, a significant wage and find that anxiety around our economic outcome today with inflation, those things become extremely amplified. I think that there's this idea of what is enough and do I have enough and will I be able to sustain all of the potential changes that could happen. I think the pandemic made a change and a shift in everyone's thought process about what enough meant, and whether or not I can survive in certain circumstances. And so, individuals, again, who do have what would be considered a sufficient wage or a sufficient income, still have this thought process of, over saving. I think that's where you'll see the over saving and not investing enough or not feeling comfortable to invest in certain things, which I also think the Great Recession had an impact in that also. The converse of that, I think you'll see with people who don't have enough, living in this world of credit cards and, buy now, pay later, overextending themselves, thinking that I am completely fine and I'm actually struggling. So I'm doing great, but I'm really struggling, and not able to quickly pivot or even ever rationalize the playing field of those two spaces, understanding that I'm really not at a space that I need to be financially, but I'm going to continue to spend, I'm going to continue to use my credit cards, and eventually it's going to work itself out somehow. Because if I have to get another job, I will. Or if I need to go find another job because this job isn't paying me enough, then I'm going to quit this job and go find another job because, there is not as much loyalty and commitment in the workforce as what there used to be in the workforce. And so I'll quickly put this one down and go find another one because they're going to pay me 50 cents more. And that's going to help sustain this idea that I have of I'm really okay. So I would say I see it showing up in both ways, in
And
both areas.
it is so interesting, both sides of it, because as you're explaining them, and I'm like, well, which one's worse? Like,
Mhm.
have not having enough on paper, but proceeding and going through life as if you do, or never feeling like you have enough and operating that way. And and
Mhm.
then never using the money you have or feeling so stifled by making any financial decision because you're so scared of losing it, or and obviously building up debt, and it is not good. So that probably would
Sure.
be the worst side of the continuum. But not but you mentioned before, I have the savings account, I have the emergency fund, but I do have an emergency, but I don't feel comfortable spending it. No one teaches us. We talk about, well, how much should we have an emergency fund? 3 to 6 months of expenses. And I say this to my clients all the time. That could be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Everyone just always says 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And it's like, well, what do I choose? There's 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, so actually walking through that is an important, this is what 4 months worth of expenses look like. This is what 5 months, what number feels good to you and what number mathematically makes sense depending on your household, how many income earners are in the household, do you own, rent, what's your is your income lumpy or more consistent? There's so many things to go into it, but it's always 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. But then no one tells us, what is an emergency? When can I actually use this money?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And I many times have to grant my clients permission. Ding, ding,
Mhm.
ding. This is an emergency. This is what we've been saving for.
Yes.
Filing your taxes. You owe a little bit more money to the government. Use that emergency fund. I just got a 2000, I'm not even kidding. I just got in my email $2,000 bill for my child's dentist for her cavities. That is an emergency fund type of situation. I shouldn't put that pressure on myself that I not only have to pay everything in my daily life, plus an extra $2,000 to the dentist. My other one has an $800 bill, but I shouldn't you shouldn't have to. That is emergency fund type situation, but we're never told how then do we spend it. We're just taught,
So true.
just keep it away, just keep it away. And I think that's also how that contributes to the toxic, like, saving culture or not feeling comfortable with investing too,
Yes.
because I need to
Yes.
have this money in the bank. What do you think it is behind the because another symptom of money dysmorphia is not being comfortable with investing. So why is that a thing? Why do we not want to invest now on top of it?
I think investing is just scary. It's something that you can't control. And as human beings, we want to be able to control things. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. We want to be able to control things. And when you don't have the ability to determine the outcome of something, that feels scary. And investing is not something that we feel is within our wheelhouse. And I talked about the three pillars earlier, and how the fourth pillar of investing is the thing that is least talked about. And it is because it's the one that we're least comfortable with. And we feel like we have to hire a money manager and we have to, make all these deep decisions when it comes to investing. And we really and truly don't. When you have a trusted advisor um, in your credit union that is a one stop shop for you, you have access to individuals that can give you that advice, that can sit down with you and talk about what are your plans and what do you want to do, and let me show you how to get there. You can also do small investments. I love these Robin Hoods, and every time I buy a birthday gift for a child, I buy them a micro stock, because start them off young, start early, start often. And when they get older, they have an investment, and that's something that they can take with them. But that is something that I was not taught that growing up. It's not something that I learned. It's not something that my parents thought. My parents did not trust the stock market. They, being religious, felt like that was gambling, and you don't gamble. And so, you know, there's a lot of cultural things that go into that as well sometimes. And so you'll find yourself missing out on opportunities for those reasons also. So I think there could be a multitude of things that might cause you not to enjoy the benefits of investing. But that's where we have to find people that we trust, have those conversations, be a little bit more vulnerable, um, be a little bit more willing to dialogue about those more private matters. And culturally, as I mentioned, specifically in the African American culture, that's just not something we do. We don't talk about our money with other people. And so there's a lot of things that you might miss out on, specifically because I'm going to tell you about 80% of what I got going on, but this 20% over here, we're not going to talk about that because I can't tell you everything, just a little bit, just in case. And what is the just in case? I don't even know, Sherry. I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to talk about it just in case, you know? And so we have to find that trusted person and then start dialoguing, start having those real conversations, because the way that you combat money dysmorphia is by separating facts from fiction. What is the facts about this situation? What is real and what is emotion? And until I can truly, divest those things one from the other, I'll still find myself deep in that phase of not living in what is my true reality.
As we're wrapping up, you took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say, when you find that trusted advisor, when you find someone that you can tell the whole truth to, 100% of it, and you start working through the math of it, money is math, money is our facts, but we attach our feelings to it.
Mhm.
And that's normal and natural, and that's fine as long as we're aware of our feelings. And so, how do we start to now work through, because this is the third episode of this money dysmorphia series, so we are identifying it, we've wrapped our hands around it. How do we start to work through it now? Let's look at the math, but just saying, here's the math, here it is, that's not going to fix it, right? Just like with body dysmorphia, you're beautiful, you're perfect, your weight is exactly where it should be, you look exactly, that's not fixing it. So
Mhm.
how do we work our way through it?
I truly believe in having a board of directors for your life. And a part of that board of directors has to be someone that you have that conversation with about your finances. And you'll have a conversation about, education, a conversation about work. That person I talked to about work, that top person I talked to about education, and this person I talked to about my money. And silence makes feelings grow bigger, much bigger than they need to, which is why you have to have that board of directors. And once you find that person on your board of directors that you can trust, they have to be able to help you separate that fact from those feelings. They have to be able to walk you through saying, is this a fact or is this a feeling that I'm having right now? I think that, organizations like credit unions are uniquely poised to help support members of modest means to navigate these conversations after we've had that board of directors conversation. But you have to have someone that you can have that conversation with first, so that you can then go in there confidently. Because the truth is that no matter how much I am here to help you, I don't want to walk in any room and feel ill prepared. I want to feel like that I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, or a little bit about what you're going to share with me. And so when you have that person that you can talk to and that can give you advice, even if the advice is, hey, go watch that podcast because it was amazing. I learned a lot from it. I was able to take this away from it. And I think you can too. And you will trust them and you will actually do it, because we get a lot of advice from people, but you don't always do what they say. And that's why your board of directors has to be very thoughtfully put together of people that you will actually listen and act when they say something, that you will then put those things in action, do it. And then I think you will find yourself um, less and less in that phase of money dysmorphia. As you mentioned, we all have it at some point. It does not have to be as grand or as large. We can shrink it more and more. And when we feel it moving in the opposite direction, that's where we can find the tools that we need to say, hey, this is popping up. Is this fact or is this a feeling? And then who do I go to help me reconcile this, to make sure that I do something about this now before it gets too large and I find myself in a situation that I can't get out of.
The awareness of it is so key because we're
Mhm.
never going to completely remove it. We still have the memories or the feelings of things from our childhood and money and anything. We're never going to remove it, but we become aware of it and then how that has impacted us or when we see it creeping up again. And I love having the board of directors for your life because if you think about it with anything, you have people you go to. I want to paint a room in my house this color. I know I have a friend that's really good at that. And I'm going to speak to her and go, what color should I paint this room? Right? With
Yes.
anything, I want to change my hair. Who do you use for your hair? Anything. We have people, we have resources that we go to. For finances, though, do you think it should be a friend that happens to be good at it, but then how do you know if they're really good at it? If it is a friend, if it just appears like they know what they're talking about, or should it be a professional that we should be speaking to?
I think it really depends on you. And I think it really depends on the friend. Sometimes our friends are not equipped to have these conversations. And we have to recognize that and know and understand. Sometimes our friends help to create the money dysmorphia, even if it is because we are viewing their lifestyle, their spend, and we're equating that to success. They are in a completely different phase in their life. And I would argue that that friend probably isn't the one to have on your board of directors. Now, from a professional perspective, that person may not be a money manager per se, but they are someone that you have seen has a proven track record of being able to differentiate between those facts and feelings in a way that resonates with you and in a way that you can relate to, and that really looks like, hey, this is something that looks like my life and something looks like that I'm going through this similar situation. And so they may not be the traditional friend, if you will, or the traditional expert. And expert I use very loosely because in my line of work, sometimes, an expert at what they do can be half of my age. And I may think this person can't possibly tell me anything. They haven't lived enough. But experience comes in so many different ways. And they have the ability to advise us on some very fantastic things because, again, they have access to a whole lot more information than we had access to when we were growing up. A lot more lived experience in their short years than we had when we were growing up. And so you never know where that resource might be, but it's where you really have to think deeply about who's on the board and what advice are they giving me and what am I taking away from the people that are around me, and is it the right thing?
Whenever a major life event happens, and when clients are, I need a financial advisor. I need this type. I need these professionals in my life. Or when you're assembling your board of directors for your life, they need to be someone that if something big happened, got a job, lost a job, buying a house, lost a family member, you name it, they would be one of your top 5 phone calls.
Correct.
And you need to be comfortable with them. And you need to like them enough, right? When we're picking professionals, you need to like them enough that like when you're going through this period of time, whether it's happy or sad or what draining, whatever it is, that you want to speak to them and you value the conversation and the insight that they provide. But definitely work, I would say a huge takeaway is to work on developing that board of directors for your life. We have it for like everything else. We don't even realize it. We have it for so many other aspects of our life, parenting, stuff with our partners. Like we have people we go to. So pick some people that you can trust, that you can be open and vulnerable with and share with them. And they also have their act together. They know
Yes.
you know, they walk the walk, they talk the talk, and really use them, and then take that. And I think the biggest thing is so they can gut check you of being like, hey, that's not healthy, or like, hey, your perspective might be a little bit out of whack with that one, or whatever it is. They can gut check you, so then you can have your emotion, their insight, and then bring that to someone and bring it together so you can have a more well-rounded conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Completely agree.